seated.
The people may call their next witness.
People call Wagner.
Sir Wagner, before you sit down, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty for perjury?
Yes.
Okay, you go ahead and sit right there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you give us your full name and spell it for us?
Yes, Kyle Wagner, Kylewagner.
How did you know Dee Warner?
I provided IT services for her her businesses.
Okay. Did you know her before you were hired to work
I
for her?
did, yes.
About how long?
Probably about 5 years.
And did you know her well during those 5 years?
I knew of her. I've met her a handful of times.
Okay. And so can you tell us about when you were hired to do the IT work?
It probably would have been around 2014, 2015, probably around that time.
Okay. And did you continue through April of 2021?
I did, yes.
Okay. And who was the person that contacted you to say, we need you to do IT services for us?
It was mainly D.
Okay. And throughout that time period up until April 24th, 2021, was she your primary contact?
She was, yes.
Okay. So you interacted with her in terms of what she needed for the businesses?
Correct.
And what were the businesses? Was it all three or just one or two?
There was a handful. There was Wareg Farm Services, there was GDW Investments, and DDW Transportation.
Okay. And they all had the one office there at the Munger property?
Correct.
Okay. And so you were doing IT for all three?
Correct.
And what did that involve? What components?
It was from a networking standpoint, so servers, wireless, maintaining their computers, as well as taking care of surveillance.
Okay. And again, was it D you were interacting with and deciding what components to add or change or update?
Correct.
And would you describe her as a tech-savvy person?
She was not.
Okay. Could she set up her own iPhone if she got a new phone?
No.
Okay. So let's turn to the surveillance. What did that consist of?
It as far as like equipment,
Exactly.
so it'd be the cameras, and then there would also be the actual server itself, or also known as a network video recorder, and that was what actually recorded the footage.
And where was that piece located?
That was located in the office.
Okay. So the cameras would feed into a piece of machinery in the office,
Correct.
and that machinery in the office would actually contain the recording.
Correct.
Great. Okay. I'm going to show you what's been entered as People's 30. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with building number 1. Do you recognize that building?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you refer to that building as?
That was the old shop.
All right. And did you place any cameras in the old shop?
Yes, I did.
Where were they?
When you, from the front, when you walked in, on inside, there was a camera right above the door. And then in the shop area, there was a 360 camera that was mounted on the ceiling. And then what I kind of refer to as maybe like the warehouse in the back, there was another 360 camera there. And then on the exterior of the building, where that circle is, there was an exterior camera, and that was facing the fuel tanks.
Okay. So let's take these one by one. There are at least 2 cameras directly overhead and up against the ceiling.
Correct.
And those 2 cameras are the 2 different parts of the old shop?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's another camera on the wall inside the doors.
Correct.
Okay, great. And so those are the 3 cameras in inside the old shop?
Correct. Yes.
All right. And then you've got, looking at the arrows on the diagram, could you just explain what that is, what that represents?
That's the view of the camera.
Okay, of the external camera?
The external camera, correct.
Facing north off of the old shop.
Correct.
All right,
Looking at
great.
the fuel tanks.
All right, let's come on. well, it's not wanting to. All right, let's go down to, can you see at the very bottom, there is building number 6? And
Yes.
again, okay. What, do you know what that is?
That's the office.
All right, and you see there's a red represented there as well?
Yes.
What does that red represent?
That represents the camera that was interior to the office, looking at the reception desk in that area.
Okay, was there just the one camera in the office?
Correct.
And it only captured the reception area?
Correct.
All right. And then just to the north, well, just to the west of the office, there's the building running north and south.
Yes.
What building is that?
Are you talking about number 5?
Correct.
That's the new shop.
All right. And again, there's a red area on that building. What does that represent?
That represents the interior camera.
Okay. Was it just the one interior camera in the new shop?
Yes.
And so part of the south part of the new shop is not colored red. Does that mean it's not on camera?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then what about, oh, here we go. The circle there on building 5?
That's the exterior camera.
Okay. And the arrows coming out of the circle?
Represents the view.
Okay. On the east side of the office building, that circle there, can you tell us what that is?
That's the a camera that's mounted on the exterior of the building, and that was the primary view was the scale.
Okay. And can you tell the jury what the scale is?
The scale is kind of that rectangular. It's almost, you kind of see a faint red, and now they use that to weigh the trucks from the trucking company.
Okay, so it's that pinkish area running north and south right next to what looks like a silo?
Correct.
Okay. And that was why that camera was put there to monitor the scales?
Correct.
All right, so do you recognize this picture here?
Yes.
And what is that showing?
That's showing a camera that's mounted on the exterior of the new shop.
Okay, so there's like, there's two overhead doors and then a man door in between.
Yes.
Okay, and then right above the man door, there's a big white round thing. What, do you know what that is?
Yes, that's a wireless bridge.
Okay, and so where's the camera in relation to that?
To the right of it.
Okay. Okay, and this photo, this is on People's 32.
That's the inside of the office,
Okay, and I'm zooming in. Do you recognize that?
and that's the camera.
Okay. Okay, and here?
That's the camera that's looking at the scale.
Okay, so just to be clear here, there's a Golden Harvest banner of some kind.
Correct.
Do you see that? And then it looks like a window to the right and up from that.
Yes, there's a light, and then to the right of the light is the camera.
Okay. Just to the left of the pine tree.
Correct.
All right. And what kind of camera is that?
That was a 360 camera.
Okay. And can you tell the jury what that means by a 360 camera?
It's also known as a fisheye camera. So you get a full 360 view from that camera, but within the camera itself, it's able to break the image out into different images, so you can kind of get like that panoramic view that we were looking to get for that area.
Okay.
So a very wide angle.
I'm sorry. All right. Let's go to People's 44. Do you recognize the view in that picture?
Yes, that's on the inside of the new shop.
Okay. And I know it's small, but in the very upper left, do you see it says new shop and then 4/25/2021?
Yes.
Okay. And then in the image itself, there's a date 3/18/2021. Can you explain the difference?
So the 3/18/2021, that's the timestamp that is coming from the camera itself, and obviously that time is incorrect. the time in the upper left-hand corner next to New Shop, that is the correct time, and that's the time from the server.
Okay, and how does the server know the correct time?
It's able to reach out to the internet and grab the current time.
Okay. Same thing here with People's 39.
The 2/13/2021, that is interior to, or that's the time that's inside the camera, and in the upper left-hand corner, that's the timestamp from the server,
And that's the correct time, upper left.
and that's the correct time in the upper left.
All right, thank you. Now, you said that the server inside the office does the recording, correct?
Correct.
Does it record 24/7, all of the angles that we just referred to?
It records on motion. So if the server itself detected motion from a camera, it would record that particular footage.
Okay. And if it didn't detect motion?
Then it basically drops the footage. So the security camera itself is constantly sending a constant stream to the server, and the server makes the decision if it's going to keep that footage or not keep that footage based on motion.
Okay. And are there settings in terms of the motion, like how sensitive it is, that kind of thing?
Yes, you can set the sensitivity and basically to the server, to the software. As far as the sensitivity, the more sensitive that you set it to, it doesn't need as many pixels to change. If it's less sensitive, it's going to need more pixels to change.
Okay, so a picture being sent by the camera is comprised of pixels,
Correct.
hundreds, thousands, millions, something
Yes,
like that?
correct.
Okay, and then the computer on the other end is looking at changes between pixels, is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
Yes,
As time goes along?
correct.
Okay, and so then you are able to set like how many pixels need to change before it starts recording?
It's basically it's essentially a percentage.
Okay.
But yes, you set the percentage, and then you can also set how many seconds you want to record before and after a motion event.
Why wouldn't you just record everything?
It just with the storage that was available on that particular server, we wouldn't have been able to have a long retention period. With the setup that they had at that time, and recording on motion basically only gave us 7 days worth of footage.
Okay, so if you didn't do that, you'd have a lot of nothing.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
You probably would only have maybe a day, if that.
So what kinds of things would trigger the motion?
Normally, it could be, if on the inside of a building, somebody walking past it. On the outside, it could be a car. Sometimes even, like with a scale camera, having that pine tree there and it being in the view, if the wind was blowing and the tree was moving, that would be enough to set off a motion event.
Okay. Does the change in pixels, that motion event, does it vary? You said it was a percentage, right? So it's like the percentage of the entire picture, right? Does that change? Could you have the same object that's close and sets it off, and that same object be a mile away and not set it off? Do you understand the question?
Yes, if the object was closer, the likelihood of it setting the motion event off is higher than that same object setting it off further in the distance, because if the object is closer, that's changing more of the pixels versus the object being far in the distance.
Okay. And have you personally seen any footage of things like dust?
No.
Okay. All right, so I want to go to Monday, 4/26. Did Dale contact you regarding the IT system?
Yes.
Okay. And how did he contact you? And again, I'm talking about April 26, 2021, the Monday after.
Yes.
Okay.
I received a phone call early in the morning. It probably was between 8 and 8:30. He requested that we meet. I was already going to be heading out that way to Hardy Farms, which I also provided IT services for them. and I said that I would be willing to meet at the office, which he indicated he didn't want to. So we ended up meeting outside of Hardy Farms.
Okay, and Hardy Farms being Greg and Shelley Hardy?
Correct.
Okay, and that's just a couple miles from the Munger farm?
Correct.
Okay. And what time of day did you meet Dale?
I would say it probably was around noon.
Okay. And what are the things that he wanted you to do?
He wanted the cameras put back on his phone, so the Milestone server allows you to be able to access it through the Milestone app that can be installed on your smartphone. And I needed to update some settings within his phone so that way he could be able to view the footage.
Okay, so the surveillance, that's what you're referring to as Milestone?
Correct.
And that's the company that provides all this?
That's the software, yeah.
Okay. And could you view the surveillance footage from the office?
Yes.
How so?
You could access it from the computer that was at the reception desk.
And would that be real time or just past events or both?
It would be both.
Okay. So you could go back however long was still on the server, you can go back days, whatever it is, and look at what happened yesterday or the day before, et cetera?
Correct.
And how far back could you go? What was that window?
It was about 7 days.
Okay. All right, and then tell us about the phone. You said that he wanted to update it on his phone?
He wanted to be able to access the cameras from his phone.
And is it the same thing? You could go back and look at things and look at real time?
Correct.
Okay. And why didn't he have it on his phone?
Probably about a month or two prior to disappearing, we upgraded to a different internet provider, and as a result of that, the public IP address changed, so that needed to be updated on his phone.
So isn't an IP address like an electronic address?
It's a unique identifier that allows you to communicate to other computers out on the internet, and especially if you're publishing a service. So when I say publish a service, I mean allowing the ability to access the Milestone software from anywhere in the world. You have to have a public IP address. So then that way you can tell the app that's on a phone or another type of device how to get to the server to be able to access either the live or recorded footage.
Okay, but Dale was telling you he couldn't do that?
Correct.
And you looked and he had the wrong IP address?
Correct.
Okay. What else did he ask you to do when you met with him?
He wanted access to the camera server taken away from some of the other people that had it.
Okay. And so who was left with access to the server access?
I believe it was Parker Hardy and Zach Bach.
So they were removed or they were left?
Oh, they were removed. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
And so who was left with access at that point?
At that point, it just would have been Dale.
Just Dale. Would Dee have had access?
No.
Okay. And what about the computer system in the office? Was there anything done with that?
Passwords for the server was changed, and some passwords for QuickBooks was changed as well.
Okay. And did you give those passwords to anybody other than Dale?
No.
Okay. So, for example, Dee was a part owner of these businesses. Would she have been able to access any of that at that point after you changed them?
No.
Okay. Later that week, were you contacted by the sheriff regarding the surveillance footage?
Yes, I was.
All right. And what did you do in response to that?
I exported the surveillance footage that was on the server.
Okay. And again, you're saying it went back about a week. Is that about right?
It was about 7 days, if I remember correctly. Yes.
Okay. All right. Last thing I want to talk about, in the summer of like 2019 or 2020, did you have a conversation with Dale regarding Dee's phone?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
I received a phone call regarding that Dee was having some medical issues, maybe even some migraines, and was in the hospital.
And who was the phone call from?
It was from Dale.
Okay, continue.
And that she possibly could have been going under a medical procedure, and the request was made for me to clone Dee's phone.
Okay. Had Dee ever contacted you to say, I'm going in for this procedure?
No,
Did she ever say, clone my phone in case, just so that, my contacts and all my texts and things, anything like that?
no.
Okay. What does it mean to clone somebody's phone?
In the case for Dee, she had an iPhone, and so her whole entire phone was regularly backed up to iCloud. So that was contacts, photos, text messages, basically any information that was on her phone. And so cloning it basically meant restoring the iCloud backup, which essentially would make a replica of her phone. She wouldn't be able to make, the other phone wouldn't be able to make phone calls unless the service was transferred, but it would have historical text messages as well as any other information that was on her phone, including notes.
Okay. And so if you had done that and given it to Dale, he would have had access to what?
Whatever was on her phone.
Okay. Text messages,
Photos, notes.
any phone call that she would have made, at least the number called or
Yes.
received,
Correct.
anything that was on your phone.
Correct.
Okay. And did you do it?
I did not do it
Why not?
because I didn't have Dee's permission and I didn't feel it was right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wagner. My name is Sinsky. I have some questions for you. You testified that you started working for the Warner farm in around 2014 or 2015. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you had actually went to school with Parker Hardy,
I did. Yes.
and you were working for Hardy Farms, I believe you mentioned.
Yes.
And that's how you got introduced to Miss Warner to start working for the Warner farm?
Correct.
You worked for all three of the businesses that you named that were on the Munger property, correct?
Correct.
It was all one network.
Yes.
And you said you worked on pretty much anything IT related.
Correct.
It sounds like Miss Warner wasn't tech savvy.
Correct.
Mr. Warner wasn't tech savvy.
Yes.
You were the go-to.
I was. Yes.
And despite working for all of the businesses, Miss Warner was the person that you primarily had contact with, right?
Correct.
You would call yourself friends with Miss Warner?
Yes.
When you installed cameras on the farm, this was company-wide.
Correct.
And there were some spots I think we saw in the government's exhibit that the cameras didn't pick up on the farm, correct?
Correct.
Miss Warner was the person who directed you where to place the cameras?
Correct.
Did she also tell you what sensitivity to have it at?
No.
Did you just leave it at the automatic setting that it came with?
I mean, I would adjust it to try to get it as accurate as possible.
Mr. Warner never had you put cameras up in any certain locations?
Correct.
And Miss Warner was the person who not only told you where to put the cameras, but what direction they should be pointed at.
Correct.
And I believe you said Miss Warner, Zachary Bach, and Parker Hardy, they all had access to the camera system.
Correct.
For the month prior to Miss Warner going missing, Mr. Warner did not have access to the camera system.
Correct.
And you testified that you met with Mr. Warner on April 26th, 2021, at the Hardy Farms.
Correct.
And Mr. Warner was agreeable to meet at Miss Warner's family's home/property.
Correct.
Mr. Warner wanted access to the camera systems,
Correct.
and these were camera systems that were paid for by all of the businesses,
Yes.
and they were the camera system that was located on the Munger property.
Correct.
On Sunday, April 25th, 2021, Mr. Warner would not have been able to get into the camera system on his phone. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Correct.
And then you said he also wanted the passwords changed,
Yes,
and these were passwords for all of the businesses,
correct,
and Mr. Warner is an owner of the businesses.
correct.
He had the right to not only change the passwords, but determine who had access to them.
Correct.
During that conversation with Mr. Warner on April 26th, he actually thought Miss Warner had run off,
Correct.
and he expressed that he wanted his wife back.
Correct.
Moving on to the iPhone that you say Mr. Warner wanted cloned. When exactly was that?
I would say it probably was a year or two before she went missing.
So 2019, 2020, that range?
Yes.
You said that it was your understanding Miss Warner was in the hospital, or that's what you were told, and she was having potentially a procedure done.
Correct.
It was not a secret to Mr. Warner that you primarily had contact with Miss Warner.
Correct.
And he did not tell you at that point to keep it a secret from Miss Warner?
Correct.
He never told you, don't tell her I'm asking you to do this?
Correct.
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Just two quick things. Other than the time you just described, from the time you started working there, whenever it was 2014, 2015, did Dale ever, at any other times, ask you to put the camera system on his phone? Did he ever contact you about that other than the one you described?
There probably was one other incident, but it would have been when I was on site doing work for them.
Okay.
It could have been. It probably. I think the one incident that I remember was when I was in passing. He was passing through the office, and I was working on some other things, and he just asked to have it put on his phone.
Okay. And the other thing is, do you know the reason why the cameras were put in the places that they were?
Normally, it was usually because of some kind of an incident or a problem that might have been happening on the farm.
Problem related to what?
Maybe employees or usually it was related to problems with employees.
So the cameras were pointed at like valuable things?
Yes,
Like-
that would be
like,
correct.
You talked about the fuel
Yes,
camera
yeah.
being one,
Correct.
inside tools, that kind of thing?
Correct, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, if council could approach, we do have one question from the jury. All right, council has reviewed the question, and it's my understanding there are no objections. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so the question is, how many total cameras installed outside and any cameras facing south towards Munger Road?
I think there was 3 exterior cameras, and the scale camera would have been able to see a portion of that road. It probably, like in the slight view, you could see a little bit.
Mr. McCready or Ms. Vinsky, any follow-up questions?
No follow-up.
Okay, and can we excuse Mr. Wagner from his speech?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. You are free to go, and if you wish to remain in the courtroom, you can do that now.
Thank you.